Hi, I'm Scott and welcome back to my reselling channel. My wife and I run an online business and we sell everything from clothes to militaria to really whatever we can find. And whatever we can find has a lot to do with this particular episode. If you've been reselling very long, you know that one of the things that you run into is when you get out there, the good stuff is already gone. Somebody's already picked through it. They've already taken the things that you'd love to have. More than once you've pulled up to a sale or you're at the Goodwill bins and you see somebody throwing something into their basket or carrying it off of their car that you really wish you would have beat them to. What I'm going to share with you tonight are some of the things that Melody and I have picked up long after everybody else has already dug through those things. Sometimes it's not about grabbing the thing that everybody else has. It's about looking for that thing that's just a little bit different. I've got notes here on my computer, and up here on this part of the screen, I'm going to put up some pictures of some of the things that we've had. And all of these things are within the last couple of years. And the other thing that you're going to see is a lot of times, many of these things will come from one place. You're going to go to a lot of places where there just isn't anything, or it is genuinely picked over. Maybe I beat you there, but over time, you're going to eventually be the person that's at the right place. And so let's go through some of the things that we've found that have been really, really great finds for us. Here's how we define a great find. It's not just how much money it makes. Sometimes for us, it's just the excitement of it. Sometimes we find something that's been a bucket list. We've been looking for it for a while. Sometimes we find something that is so unusual that it's just exciting to dig through and learn about. On some of the storage lockers, or some of the times when we've bought out entire estates, it's been more about learning about the people that had it. So our great finds aren't necessarily defined by a great return on investment, but a great return on investment doesn't hurt at all. So what we're going to do is I've got about a dozen items here I want to share with you that we picked up, and I don't think that I paid more than $10 for any of them. I think there's a purse that I paid $15 for. All of these items, the reason I selected these, all of these items were left by other people. And so the first one I want to point out is it's called a Pilot's Luminous Helmet Disc. I'll put a picture of it right here. It's from World War II. Melody and I went to an estate sale that was in the middle of nowhere. We live in the middle of nowhere, and this was 2 miles further to nowhere from where we live. And I think I have a picture of the house, and I'll pop that up there. Very unassuming, but we had done a little bit of research, and at this particular estate sale, the previous owner had flown in World War II. He flew in Korea and in Vietnam and had retired as a major general. So we were really interested in what would be left out there. Normally, if you do many of these sales, you know the military stuff is gone before you ever get there. And at this particular sale, no one was picking it up. So on the luminous helmet disc, it looks like a compact, like a makeup compact, but it was made to glow if they were shot down, and that one sold very, very quickly. I paid $1 for it, and it sold for $275. It looked like nothing. So if you're ever in a place where you start seeing a lot of old military stuff, be very, very careful of the smalls because they can be worth an awful lot of money. They're very easy to list. They're very easy to ship. And so keep your eyes open for them. I mentioned at the beginning, I picked up a purse, and I'll pop a picture of it up. As near as we could figure out, this was from the 1930s, and it was made by a Shoshone Indian. When I got to the sale, it was at the end of the day, and this was laying out on their driveway, not in a bag, just out on the driveway. I paid more than they were asking. I gave them $15 for this one. It sold almost immediately for $315. When you see the old beaded purses, and they're actually pretty simple, it'd be pretty easy to miss. Obviously, everybody missed it before I got there. So if you're at estate sales or garage sales, pay attention to those things. They will be cloth lined. It'll look almost like they used a bolt of whatever fabric they got cheaply. The back will more match the colors on the front. Often a very simple rope thing. And the beads are collector type beads from the 1930s. These were sold at roadside stops and places like that relatively inexpensively, but they have gone up tremendously in value. The next jacket I have is a B150, and this one got passed over at an estate sale because it was absolutely filthy. It was covered in grease and dirt, and I'm sure nobody, I think they had $8 on it. And this one sold for over $200. It's a flight jacket, very, very early for the from the Army Air Force before it was the just the Air Force. And so if something has the age to it, and a lot of times if you look at these, like in the picture that I'm going to show you, this one has the black inside tag. And that's a real key indicator that you've got something that's close to the World War II period. The next one was really rare. I sold it way cheaper probably than what I should have. It's called a blood chit. And they've kind of got a morbid history to them. What they were printed on, a lot of them were silk, a lot of them were painted on the insides of jackets, a lot of them were just cards. This one was a cotton stock paper. This one was rare because it was for, back to that first place that I went to, it's just a piece of paper in a little plastic thing. This one was for the Russian theater, and the Russians only allowed American Air Forces into their airspace for about 3 months. And so this was a really rare one, and I could have probably got more out of it, but it sold in about 30 minutes. I was into it for pennies, $200. And if you see these, a lot of times what it is, if a pilot is shot down, they will have, hey, I'm an American pilot. If you can get me to safety, you'll be rewarded. And it says it in several different languages so that they can get help if there's anybody there willing to help them. The next one is just a reminder. I'm going to cover several watches. Melody and I don't know a lot about watches. We are not watch experts. But like on this little Bulova right here, it was in a bag of cheap watches. One of the first things you do is you flip them over. This one said 14 karat on the back, and it had a 14 karat gold case. So this sold for $600, and I think they all would, regardless of the brand. If they have real gold in them, of course, gold is very valuable. A lot of these old watches people don't pay attention to. And so it was just in a big pile of old junk that we checked through. Back to the first estate that we talked about, the pilot's one. This is a, it's not just a flight manual, it's an operator's manual that was assigned to a specific plane. And this specific plane was traced back to the pilot that we had flown, so I could show provenance all the way back to when this thing was issued to him. And so this one brought, I don't remember exactly, I think this was $375 because I included some personal paperwork in there. If you're ever at a site, whether it's, if it's anybody, if you could Google their name and find them, if they're famous enough for that, if they're throwing out the ephemera, if they're getting rid of the paperwork, take a hard look at it, especially if it's got some age to it. Because things like this, sometimes it's the only one in existence. We had, from that same estate sale, we had his original test to get his pilot's exam, a handwritten test that he had taken, and so all of that stuff sold. The next one is a pocket watch. You're going to see a lot of pocket watches, and this one was not 14 karat gold. That's not why it sold. It sold for $211. I put it on an auction because I wasn't sure what it would bring. It would run for a few seconds and stop, so the things inside of it desperately needed cleaning. But what made this one special, and what you can look for when you're out, like I say, this one got passed over because it wasn't gold. It certainly didn't look that good when it was just sitting there, but it said railway special. And a lot there, you hit a couple of collectors this way. You get the vintage watches, you get people that are looking for pocket watches, and you get the people that are looking for railway stuff. So 211, that was on a 7-day auction, and I think I paid 10 for that one. The next one was at the Goodwill bins, and it was in a bin. Nobody picked it up. It looked like it honestly looked like a cheap belt on old leather. You pick it up, and immediately, to me, the conchos on it look like silver. And one of the first things you check on old Indian silver is it'll look like it's laminated, because a lot of times they'll do those in 2 parts. And sure enough, it did. So that was it. I took it home, and one of the keys to being able to maximize your return on investment on something like that, plus it's just plain interesting, is to take, and if there are any initials on the back, there are some great websites out there to help you identify the artist. And on this one, it was an artist, his nickname was Sparky. And so we were able to identify the artist, identify the approximate time, and it brought $330. And I paid $1.49 a pound. So I was definitely under $5 on that. The next one, I'm going to put up a couple of pictures, because odds are you're not going to see one. But the odds are I wasn't going to see one either. And the lesson here, of all the things that I've shown you so far, nothing was passed over more than this one. This is a Goodwill bins find. This is a typical M65 jacket, which dates to Vietnam era. If you've sold a lot of military stuff, you've seen M65 jackets many, many times. They bring between $50 and $100. And I normally pick them up just because they're $50 to $100. I've sold enough of them over the years that the minute I saw this one, I was like, wow, that is a really different pattern on there. And I couldn't identify the pattern. I had no clue. And it was rough shape. I mean, it was torn up. It was faded. It had been washed. And on the day that I picked it up, there were a lot of other resellers at the Goodwill bins. And several of them had told the others, it's not real. It's a foreign one. It's not. Everybody passed it over. In fact, when I got there, they were minutes away from taking that bin and hauling it out. So it took me a little bit of time, but just I Google. I started with, like, if you look at it, I started with like oak leaf pattern and things like that. And eventually I found out that the Japanese made a sample pattern for the American military back in the Vietnam era, called the Mitchell pattern. That's the green color. The inside is actually a beige color. It was a different pattern, but it just commonly became known as the Mitchell pattern. And if you look up Mitchell pattern M65s, there are some YouTube episodes that people have about that, and pretty much they all say they don't exist anymore. You can see pictures of soldiers that had them, but there just weren't enough made to make it into modern day. So I'm into it for maybe $5. I put it out on auction. You know you got a good auction when you immediately getting people ask you if you'll cancel early, if you'll do this, if you'll do that. And I don't ever cancel early. If it sells for the minimum or doesn't sell at all, I'm okay with that, because it's a learning process for me, and I enjoy that as much as I do the sales. And that particular jacket sold for $1,275, and that is one of my more exciting flips, because we learned so much during the process. The next jacket, it actually came right near me, and it's amazing to me what people value and what they don't. I went to an estate sale just 4 or 5 miles from my house, which, if it was far out in the country as we live, we're neighbors. And going through their closets, and I'm going to put up 2 pictures of this one. I'll put the front first, and then I'll put the back. And you'll see, obviously, it's an old jacket, and there's painted numbers on the back. And I knew what this one was right away. This is a World War II Navy deck jacket. And their grandfather had served in the Navy. And so they had it marked for $8. I was there late Sunday. It was half price. And so I carried it up front, and I said, hey, mean, you guys need to know what this is. You need to put this up. This is your grandfather's Navy deck jacket. Navy deck jackets, unlike the Army or the Air Force, the jackets were assigned to a boat. That's what the numbers are painted on the back. They're not assigned to individuals. So not nearly as many of them survived into the modern era because they went down with the ship. They weren't given out to individuals. Obviously, some of them made it out, and this was one of them. Family had no interest in it, so I gave them the $4, and it sold for $275, and it sold relatively quickly. The next one right here is it's something Melody found, and the bad part about that is that you know she gets the credit, and we try to avoid that. I mean, well, anyway, we won't go into it. I just like to win all the time. But anyway, Melody found this one at the bins, and the sad part about it is I had already been through the bin. So when you're out there feeling like there is nothing left because people have already picked over, I feel like I'm pretty good at this. I study a lot and I practice, and I had just been through that bin, and my wife, who, I mean, she's not in here, she's not nearly as good as me, she found it. And it's a Navy summer flying jacket, and I completely missed it. Quick and easy sale, brings $250. It was in good shape, had a few stains on it, but that doesn't, on a lot of that old stuff like that, it doesn't have a big impact on it. So kudos to Melody, and well, and I don't like to give her credit, but what are you going to do? Again, the next item, we're going back to the military place that we talked about before. The same estate sale where nobody was picking up anything. I went back a total of 3 times. They were open 4 days. I didn't even go the first day. And I picked this item up, the next one, and it didn't register with me. I put it back down. When Melody went back with me, she picked it up, put it in the car. We bought it. This was the last day. Everything was make a stack, and they give you a price. I think we spent a couple $100 that day, and I filled the car up. So what you're looking at here, it's a margarine tub, and those watches were inside that margarine tub. 4 broken watches. They were Seiko dive watches, which were popular with pilots. And turns out all of them were really, really collectible. I had no idea. I posted the picture on Instagram and I said, hey, we paid $1. How did we do? And most of the people were trying to buy them from me super cheap. And man, one awesome guy sent me a note and said, hey, dude, I don't think you realize what you got. And he explained to me what they were. So we listed them the next day, and we sold the collection in separate lots, not all to one person. And I'll scroll through a few pictures so you can see the watches up close. We sold, the total came to $3,900 in one day, and I had passed it over twice. And Melody got it, and yeah, she won. And I guess I still win. It went in my account, but on the next one, this was a bucket list item for me. So great return, good money, but really one I was just super, super excited to find. You don't see a lot of them. And I was a school superintendent. I think I've shared that with you. Loved all of the education stuff, but I think the FFA is one of the best programs out there. And of course, we were super blessed in Penelope to have one of the best ag teachers, honestly, anywhere. And so this FFA jacket, and you've probably picked it. I pick up all the FFA jackets I can find, and most of them are blue. Like the vast majority of them are blue. And I still pick them up. They're $35, $40, and normally you can get them for under $10. But they sell super fast. They're super easy to sell. But if you see a white one, it'll most likely be embroidered and say sweetheart on it, like this one did. I picked this up for $5. It wasn't 10 at an estate sale. And it got overshadowed for us at the time because it was the same week that Melody found the watches. So my jacket was like, yeah, whatever. Super cool find, sweetheart jacket. So what a sweetheart jacket is, prior to 1991, girls couldn't join the FFA. A chapter could have a sweetheart. They could have a girl like serve drinks or something. And you can imagine that that didn't survive. It survived longer than it should, but it didn't survive past the 90s. And a lot of the jackets were just thrown out. They weren't a symbol of pride to have had them. And so if you find one, a white sweetheart jacket, they have a very, very high sell-through rate. They get a great return. This one brought $380. It was good in that it was fairly clean. They don't have to be spotless, but it was fairly clean. It had the chain stitch embroidery, which almost all the FFA jackets do, but it was dated, and that helps. And it was 70s on that. So that one brought $380, and they normally sell within a few days at the longest. It's about all the longer I've had one. And I'm going to finish up with another one that's easy to forget about. This didn't bring a ton of money. This was just above $200. But you do see these things out there, and people pass them up either because they're heavy or they're not sure what it is. And most of you have a smartphone in your pocket. You have all the knowledge known to mankind within a few clicks. This was a vintage racing outfit. The first thing you do to check for that, one, is it's going to look like a racing outfit, but two, it's going to be fire retardant. This one it was a vintage one that hadn't been worn. We don't tend to hang on for highest price, and we sell them. If I get a good offer and the person that is making the offer is the type of person that has good feedback and leaves good feedback, then I'll take the deal. And even if there's money to be made, then I'll let them make the money on the back end of it. So exciting things. But when you're at these, when we focus on things that other people are passing up, there's a lot of times there's still really good stuff there. There's good profit in it. So my challenge to you is don't give up. I'm going to pop that picture up of the house that had the Air Force stuff in it, because that's a place a lot of you would have driven by, not stopped. And we filled up a truck 3 times from that estate sale, and they got rid of everything. They got rid of everything, including his Silver Star certificate and all of his military write-ups and just this plethora of stuff. We sold stuff that didn't make us feel bad, and the rest of it we donated to a mom and pop museum where that guy had served as commander near the end of his career, and they were excited to get it. They gave me back what I paid, and then I paid the shipping I sent him almost 200 pounds of stuff that we didn't sell. Like, I mean, I had his one-man life raft. So get out, take a look, and you don't have to push and shove. You don't have to be faster than everybody else. I'm not tough. I'm not strong. I look harder. I study more. And obviously I'm married to somebody who's very smart. And, she has different interests than me that we offset each other pretty well. And but part of being successful at this for us, because it's going to look different for us. We're not going to list 50 items a day. We don't have that kind of energy. I stopped in the middle of the day and went fishing out at the tank because I can, but I still want to make 6 figures a year. So I try to pick up things that look a little different. They have maybe more history, and I spend a little bit more time studying them and a lot less time listing. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully there's an interesting thing or two. In the comments down below, pop in something you found after everybody else had looked. Tell us you're the one that got away from everybody else. I'd love to hear about it because, man, there's so many out there that are exciting stories to hear. So again, thank you for tuning in. I'm really glad you're here, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.